Thank you for joining us and a warm welcome to News Across Nigeria. I'm Olumide Macaulay. On today's program, a faction of the People's Democratic Party extends tenure of the Ahmed McCarthy-led caretaker committee for a period of 1 year as police cordon off venue of planned convention in Port Harcourt. Human Rights Commission begins investigation into face-off between workers and governments in Nasarawa State that claimed 2 lives. And the NDLEA nabs a man caught with millions of fake Naira notes in Kwara State. Thank you so much for joining us. We begin in the Federal Capital Territory, where the Office of the National Security Advisor has appealed to agencies involved in the counter-terrorism operations in the country to stop all inter-agency rivalry as it limits the success of government's efforts to stamp out the menace. This is coming from the Coordinator, National Counter-Terrorism Strategy, Mr. Yaminu, who represented the National Security Advisor at a meeting with directors and heads of parastatals involved in the counter-terrorism crusade. The federal government had launched a counter-terrorism strategy in 2014 with much emphasis on the use of force. The strategy was recently reviewed.
We must all realize that to defeat terror or manage the art of terrorism, the country must be a step ahead of the terrorists. To be a step ahead of the terrorists, all gamut of national power and authorities must be activated and channeled adequately. The Office of the National Security Advisor expects very good cooperation and contribution from all ministry, departments, and agencies, and the non-governmental organizations. Let us be conscious of the fact that we are partners in progress and drop all rivalries that tries to rob us of this partnership. We must always remember that the terrorists will strive to take advantage of all weaknesses in the government approach, and we must ensure that these are reduced to the barest minimum if it cannot be eliminated.
To education, the Executive Secretary of the Universal Basic Education Commission, Dr. Ahmed Waboyi, says he is concerned about the number of out-of-school children and is appealing for more efforts from state governments to bridge the gap. He was speaking at a meeting with heads of state universal basic commissions across the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory, saying there's no justification for any child not to be enrolled into the nation's basic education scheme. He also called for improved training for teachers and the judicious use of basic education funds across the country.
One key issue I wish to draw our attention to is the enormous number of out-of-school children subsisting in our midst. Although figures differ, and you find a lot of figures, have been bandied around, there is no justification to tolerate the stark reality that we face day to day. We must all wake up to address this challenge and ensure that we provide all the basic educational opportunities available in Nigeria to build a secure life and a secure future for our younger generations. Ladies and gentlemen, we must also not forget the issue of teacher training and professional development. The quality of any educational system cannot, as the saying goes, rise beyond the quality of its teachers. UBEC has taken this issue very seriously over the years, but we must all redouble our efforts to ensure that our teachers are well prepared and fully endowed to discharge their responsibilities. The teacher should be the pride of the system and must be recognized as such by all.
And now to politics. The People's Democratic Party, the PDP, has extended the tenure of the Ahmed McCarthy-led caretaker committee for a period of 1 year. This extension was effected through a vote of confidence by the national delegates at the party secretariat in Port Harcourt. The delegates and leaders of the party agreed that the committee shall continue for the tenure of not more than 12 months, within which they are expected to conduct a make a decision. And this is coming after the unresolved legal tussle over the party's leadership and the sealing off of the Shark Stadium venue of the convention in the River State capital. Members of the NEC had earlier met at the State Government House, but later moved to the party secretariat. Now we have our correspondent for politics, Shehu Akimbaloye, in Port Harcourt, the River State capital, to give us a heads up on what's happening now. Shehu, so good to see you. What's happening? We heard you speaking earlier with a senior member of the PDP saying that in spite of the cancellation of the convention, according to court judgments, it has held and things are moving ahead. So tell us what's going on now.
Thank you, Olumide. What we are seeing is a sense of the fact that delegates and members of the party gradually easing out of the city, Port Harcourt, which is hosting the national convention under the leadership of Senator Ahmed McCarthy. So, but what has happened in the last 2-3 hours is the fact that the delegates, the leaders of the party met, and they heard what they said. It's a national convention, though not in the Shark Stadium, which it was scheduled to hold, but it was held at a party secretariat in Port Harcourt. But a lot has happened today. Let me quickly bring in one of my colleagues, Emmanuel Ngeria, who have been on the ground together covering this very convention of the party. It's been some very interesting scenario all along. We've been expecting this. The McCarthy-led caretaker committee has been planning for this, and now it has come. But from the earlier hours of today, can you give our viewers a sense of what has happened in the last few hours?
Well, behind the scenes, so much had happened. You know, it was a legal tussle, a tough legal tussle that marked the build-up to this particular convention, and it was a matter of to be or not to be.
Emmanuel, you live in Port Harcourt. Tell us the kind of security presence that we saw today, or that we see today. Is it usual in Port Harcourt?
Well, yesterday, while the court judgment was going on, we noticed the presence of security operatives in the streets of Port Harcourt, especially around the area of the courts, not so far away from the venue where they were supposed to hold a national convention. And we thought, or we resigned to belief that these guys were here on ground to obey the initial court order that the security operatives should provide security for the national convention. So we went to bed with that. Everyone was expecting the convention to hold. Even the organizers of the convention thought that it was home and dry. Until early hours of this morning, we understood that all the adjoining routes to the venue had been cordoned off by the police, and the authorities there say that they were obeying instructions, and from then on.
So it was definitely an unusual one, isn't it?
It was an unusual one. That is the appropriate word to describe what has happened today. And even the convention that took place at the party secretariat could turn out to be unusual to many people.
Okay, because it might be unusual for people in the state, but for example, one of the candidates that we spoke to earlier on, it was some a word of disappointment that we heard from him. Mr. Jimmy Agbaje, one of the candidates in the planned election, this is what he told us on Channels Television earlier on.
It's not about my personal feeling. I think for me today, I'm comparing the past and the present. And under the People's Democratic Party, you can't take it away from our party that we allow democracy to thrive. It is obvious that today, the ruling party is not very interested in democracy. And you can see the hands in ensuring that opposition is not made to stand.
All right, so that's Mr. Jimmy Agbaje, one of the candidates in this national convention, but it will not, the election didn't hold. Well, that's how far it's been and the development in the PDP national convention. Many thanks, Emmanuel. And it's back now to you, Olumide, in Lagos.
Thank you, Sheun. Our correspondent, Sheun Kimbaloye, in Port Harcourt. A factional crisis currently going on in the People's Democratic Party, and two camps and two divides. And let's see where next the pendulum will swing after this recent meeting that was held at the National Secretariat headquarters in River State. We're going to take a break now on News Across Nigeria, and when we come back, the Edo Electoral Risk Management Tool. Stay with us.